Hi, I'm Rachel Gerber-Kuehl, founder of Pursuit PR, and this is Pursuit Perspectives, where we interview C-suite executives and media partners to create compelling conversation and position them to shine. Enjoy. We're joined today by Paul Caine, president of On Location. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Rachel. It's so nice to see you.
So nice to see you. For those that are listening or watching, Paul and I go way back because we met when I was earlier in my career. And Paul was actually, you were at a pretty pivotal transition from so many years at Caine as a CRO, among other roles that you had there. And you were transitioning into the CEO of Dial Global, which we then rebranded back to WestwoodOne. Then you did the acquisition to Cumulus, and you were on your way to your next adventure. So it was a very interesting time.
There was, and you were a big part of that because
Thank you.
when I went over to Dial Global, I knew we needed some outside support to kind of really transform what that brand was going to be, knowing we really wanted to move it back to WestwoodOne, but we couldn't do it without the right attention. And I quickly called a friend of mine who owned the PR agency I used to work for, and then he quickly connected me to you, and you became a very pivotal part of that entire journey.
Thank you. I was actually, as I was reminding myself of all the details, I found this Los Angeles Times piece that we did. I found Yahoo Finance. I was finding all of the coverage that we did in 2013. So it was pretty interesting.
It was a great time. I mean, we really, that one particular moment was fantastic because it was a brand that people didn't really understand until we moved it back to WestwoodOne and really started leaning it towards the power of audio, which really helped us get that message out. And then it ultimately proved to be a great pivot for the company as we sold it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I remember meeting you, and obviously you're in an executive position. You had this amazing resume, but then you were also so real and saying, this is a totally new world for me. I just left a position that I had for so long, and I'm just, just started to do something completely different. So I felt personally a nice connection with you because you on your own actually showed a level of vulnerability that I'm a person. This is actually my career. This is actually a big step I'm taking. And there's all these things I want to do on a company level, but personally, I'm actually figuring out my next path. And I remember thinking that was really remarkable.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, look, we're all on a path, whether it's your first job out of college or your last job before retirement. It's all part of a path. And the reality is when you enter any new role, you really have more to learn than you have to offer. And really the difference between success and failure in those situations is your speed of learning. And the faster you learn and the more you are curious and adapt and transform yourself and realize that when anyone hires you, they're not hiring you for now, they're hiring you for the future. And so you have to really have that vision for what that future is and how you're going to add that value and as quickly as you can get there. That's really the career journey, right? So when I was leaving Time Inc. For 24 years of being the publisher of so many of those brands and ultimately being the chief revenue officer and EVP and overseeing the entire publishing suite, moving over to radio was a new pivot because I never worked in radio prior to that. I worked in print and digital, but never radio. And especially syndicated radio, which is a whole different animal to begin with. So I had a lot to learn. And the good news is not on location, that's where I am now. WestwoodOne, as we ultimately called it, was filled with experts. People who have been in the business for a really long time, well-respected people, tremendous content. And it actually looks similar to On Location in the sense that the content that they broadcasted are the same rights holders that we build experiences and hospitality for. So it's a lot of the same ecosystem. But learning that business as quickly as I had to do it was really a big part of it. And knowing, look, when I walked in there, the whole radio industry or audio industry, as we would call it now, would consider, you just considered being an outsider. And I always laugh at that because wherever I went, no matter what nuance I was in, that was the one thing I kept hearing over and over again. You're an outsider. Like when I was in the agency world and moved into sales at USA Today, I was an outsider. Went from USA Today to Time Inc., working on People Magazine as a junior sales rep. I was an outsider. Never worked in scale print before. And then as we launched digital many years later, I was an outsider. You know,
Right.
and it's just you just find that throughout your whole career is that you're an outsider until you are curious enough and learn and grow and deliver, and then you become an insider.
But at the same time, there's got to be something to having that fresh perspective of not having been so. Sometimes when you're really close to something, you can't see it as clearly as someone that is coming in from the outside, too.
Right.
So, what do you think about that? And how do you maintain that level of freshness once you are on the inside?
So that's been like the story of my whole career is that I've never felt like we figured it out. Because as soon as you figure it out, someone's going to lap you. You
Hmm.
constantly have to keep moving. So no matter what brand I was working on or what business I've been in, is that every time we get to the place where we feel like we did it, it's time to pivot it to do it a different level again.
Right.
And if you can do that professionally in your work, you can do that in your person as well. So I've always felt like, hey, we're in this journey to learn. We're in this journey to contribute. And we're in this journey to try to create impact for an industry we're in or in your personal life, depending on the way you think about it. Um, and so you really can't get to the point of complacency. So for those that say, oh, you don't understand, pick the industry, and we have been doing it this way for so many years. As soon as people say that, it's time to pivot because
Absolutely.
and and those are also the people, when they say it that way, they're saying it as a mode of protection, protect their position,
Right.
and they don't want to feel that vulnerability of somebody else learning something that they did for so long and feeling like, that it challenges them. I actually find that kind of exciting. I love that. And I also really respect those that came before me. People who've been in this current industry, on the on location world, some of them have been in it for 30, 40 years, and they're amazing. And I have so much to learn from them. And I learn every single day, whether I work with them as my partners here or people that have been in this business legacy that are just in the industry, who I constantly tap into for information, for insights, direction, to help me understand it. And I think when people get to know me in the industry, they understand that, that I'm not walking in pretending I know it all. I actually
Hmm.
want to know what they think, and it helps me make a better decision.
Yeah, and I think so many people in all positions, once they get a little bit of power, they can do it. They can really fall on their face if they come in too aggressively and like they know it all.
Yeah.
That ends up not actually working. So coming in and actually, because I know you're so genuine, being so genuine, and then also being able to get the best information, the best picture of everything before making any drastic decisions or even incremental decisions, I think works so much better because we've all seen, the executives that come in and they want to make disruption, but they do it too soon, too fast, not considering the people that are involved, right? And it doesn't always work. What are your thoughts on that kind of opposite approach?
Look, I think you're nailing it. First of all, business is not difficult. It's actually quite simple. What makes it difficult is the people, because people have emotions and they all have their own lives that influence their behaviors, whether they're a 24/7 workaholic or someone that's going through a personal crisis, um,
Hmm.
or just simply in the beginning, middle, or end of their own personal career. There's a person on the other side of every decision, on every move, on everything. So, first of all, you have to recognize that. Secondly, business again would be simple if it was all based on financials and numbers and research, and you could just make predictive moves. That's what complicates it, is you can't predict human behavior all the time. So people's likes or dislikes, trends, what people gravitate towards the moments in the lifestyle, all have influence to all that. So when you are going to make change, you have to respect the fact that people don't like change. Very
Right.
few people do. So, so the first thing is like when you learn how to do change management is not to is first of all you figure out where you want to bring everybody. Call that position B, like further out in the spectrum. And then if everybody is on position A, far away from position B, you can't shout from position B and expect people to move from position A to
Right.
position B. What you
Right.
have to do is actually leave position B, meet them at position A, and then walk them down the journey.
I'm actually
Ultimately,
like envisioning when you were saying it for some reason in my mind, envisioning like a huge like cliff on one hand, like
yeah,
rocks, and then rocks on the side, and this huge, like scary, like we could like fall into the water in the middle.
yeah, that's a great image. It's a great image. And what you got to do is help them guide through it. Like when someone panics with high anxiety on the top of a ladder, you can't yell at them, get down.
Right.
You have
Right.
to say, move your right foot, one rung down,
Right.
move your left foot, one foot, just stay there. I'm right behind you. You talk them down. And then you ultimately get them on the ground and they're comfortable. But that anxiety moment is how do you get them there? Same
Right.
thing with change management. So if you meet them at their position and then you walk them through with logic, emotion, sensitivity, understanding, the whole journey, answer their questions, keep their comfort level high. One day they wake up in position B. It can happen very
Right.
fast in a single conversation. And that's what a presentation should be. Is a presentation should be starting where they are and
Hmm.
then walking them to where you want them to be. And the
Hmm.
worst presentations you see are ones that just shout everything about you and then and everything of why position B is where they should go.
Hmm.
No respect for where they are in position A. And that's what change management's all about. So when, like, for example, we change a name of a company or a direction or even an organizational structure, you have to start with where are the people? Where are they?
Hmm. Yeah, and I remember too, and I think there'll be some parallels as we think about your time at Time. Then we had WestwoodOne, then we had Bloomberg, and now we have IMG, and now On Location through TKO. Um, I remember in our experience, radio was like, is radio alive? Is radio fading? There was the now digital radio, Spotify, Pandora, Apple Music. And we were also starting to tap into the power of sound and
Right.
initiatives around the relevance of this industry. And I think that through that, inadvertently, you were also bringing people with you because they love the power of sound. You've got a whole team of people that are embedded with power of sound. But now I remember them getting really excited to figure out digital sound
Yeah.
and the role of that.
So going back to that time when came up with that concept, it was because everyone on the advertising side thought of radio or audio as an old school medium. They didn't think it was valuable. They all understood the value of television. They understood the value of print. They understood the value of live event, but they denigrated radio as really a direct response mechanism or a local market opportunity because it was cheap. And then what we
Mm,
were trying to do is to get people to understand how they should consider it differently. How do we get national scale advertisers to move from television or print into audio? So what we did is we commissioned a study, and it was on a hunch. Actually, we didn't know it was true yet until we did the study. But we did a study to
mm,
better understand: does audio make a difference? How do people listen to it? What kind of images? What kind of influence could that have? And what we found is a piece of research that from the medical world that showed that the audio of all the mediums actually use the most amount of brain power because
mm.
if
I don't remember
you
that.
if you don't have the ability to hear things, you can still see them and put your world together. If you if you can't see things, you have to invent your whole world. So when you listen to audio, you actually invent a world. Um,
Mm,
and it's similar to like reading a book, right? But that's
Yeah.
why audiobooks work so well, because it's
And you have
simple.
to pay attention more. You don't have a visual cue. You have to
That's right.
really pay attention. Yeah.
And what we also juxtapose that to, what do people want to do in their life? Well, if you want to do something, you go to it live. If you can't be there live, like a sporting event, you're going to watch it. But if you can't watch it, you're going to listen to it. And
Right.
that listening to it piece was really important, because what we uncovered was an important part of the market that was only able to listen to it. People at work, people driving,
Right.
people not near a TV set and can't be inside. And that was the real difference. So by launching that study, we were able to wake up a big chunk of an industry to the power of sound, the power of audio,
Mm.
and why advertising and communicating through audio was a really important mechanism. It
And you were
actually,
also able to define the customer more in terms of the target audience and then what
absolutely,
advertisers to be pitching more so to adhere to that.
absolutely. And that was where we wanted to change an industry, was we wanted an industry to really think differently. And we knew to do that, we had to meet them where they were and then bring them to where we wanted them to be.
So I'm going to come back to that. So let's go now. Next, we've got Bloomberg. So tell us about any change that when you were brought in, if my memory serves, it was uh, obviously a lot of responsibilities, but one of them was the digital side, right?
So
Which
that,
you had already done at time.
yeah, so I launched all the digital products at time for all the different uh, magazines. So we launched people.com and all the different digitals. We were actually the first app in the App Store when the iPhone first came, a year after
Wow.
the iPhone came out. The App Store opened and we were the first one there. Secondly, is we were the first magazines on the iPad.
So
Uh,
how did that happen? Was it you were really just an early adopter and you were already talking to Apple as it
we,
stood?
we were definitely an early adopter, but Steve Jobs would come to Time Inc. often to show his new products, and
Mm,
and it inspired us all the time. But I definitely, and my colleagues were very much early adopters of just, again, trying to make sure we understood the pivots. Some of the pivots
yeah.
we made didn't materialize. I mean, there was a notion at one point of an iPad that was hinged, that was full size, that would ultimately
Mm,
look like a book or a magazine on a hinge page turning thing. Never happened. And
mm.
there were definitely things that we tried to do that ultimately didn't work. But
But you were there.
people forget those things. They
You
remember
were
the
in the
ones.
moment. You were working on
Totally,
advancing, not being stagnant.
totally. So,
Yeah.
and when I launched Teen People, it was the first magazine to launch both print and digital at the same time. So that was pretty innovative, and that was in 1998. So so when I went to Bloomberg, that was after Westwood One. Mike was just coming back from being mayor of New York. It was an exciting time for Bloomberg. He had three magazines, a website, a radio network, television network, live event business. He had a whole portfolio of stuff, and everything ran independently. There was
Right.
no crossover between them. They would tap into the same editorial team to come up with stories, but everything on the business was run very separately. So I was brought in to bring it all together. And what we did is we merged the entire business team to be one entity, so that we weren't siloed anymore. And then we also tried to create the connections between them all, so that when advertising and also business partners were thinking about any one platform, we were trying to move them across all the platforms. Two big moves that we did, though. One is I saw when I was at Westwood One how ad technology was really going to change the world of advertising, and I saw a lot of companies emerging in the ad tech world. And what I thought at the time was Bloomberg, because we wanted to be a digital first organization, had an opportunity to be on the leadership of side of advertising technology, of moving beyond just straight websites and mobile into truly targeting their consumer base with better, higher performing advertising through advertising technology. And we built an entire ad tech platform for Bloomberg very quickly,
Hmm.
and that was pretty exciting. Parallel to that, I also joined the board of an ad tech company because I wanted to learn more about it. And at that time, it was all done mostly by hand almost. It wasn't even true technology at that point.
Mm.
But on that side of it, um, after I left Bloomberg, I then became the chairman of the board of that ad tech company, and we actually launched a sell side platform through that ad tech company that was became quickly a very pretty impactful. It's called an SSP, a sales side platform that helped publishers monetize their advertising inventory through auction. That's what AdTech is really
Interesting.
exciting about. And that actually, we ended up not only doing really well with that and very quickly, we merged it 3 times. And now it's
Wow.
the largest SSP in the world.
What is the name of the company for those?
It's called Magnite.
Magnite.
Mhm. And it's,
Wow.
it's one of those businesses you don't know about, but it does actually help monetize almost all the world's largest platforms, including
Wow.
Netflix, Hulu, all the major publishers, all the major websites. It's the leader in the space because it does billions of impressions a day of just helping advertisers find the right audiences at the right time.
Can you explain the concept of auction
So
there?
yeah, so in the ad tech world, when you want to put a budget against a digital campaign like that, and one of our big at Magnite, one of our big points of difference is we're the leader in connected television. So when you're watching a streaming device, let's say you're watching ESPN, and you want to and you're watching a game, part of the advertising you see is actually selected just for you. It knows your demography based on where you live and perhaps some other information that perhaps you shared through your subscription and your connection with other purchasing that you do when you give permission, and all those different things. And that's what you're
Yeah,
doing.
that's why I say no, 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 because I know too much.
Yeah, you do, and a lot of people do, but most people don't. Most people just say, "Sure, sure, sure."
Well,
It's just easier that
because it takes time to go through and uncheck.
100%. You accepting cookies.
Just
It's
you,
a
and
whole
people
other.
want to see things so quickly. No one has any patience. Like, get rid of
Exactly,
this. Yeah.
exactly. So based on that, they know the information about you. An advertiser will say, "Hey, look, call it, let's say, a car company wants to reach new prospective buyers who live in Florida, who have a young family. How do I and it's we'd like to reach women, and then they know that Rachel, you're watching a game, and let's say you're watching tennis one day, and an ad pod comes
Yes.
on, and they want to reach you. Then all of a sudden, that ad appears because through this auction, which is what we do, is you put in the amount you want to spend to
Mm,
reach that person, how much inventory you're looking for, and then it helps find the inventory and it bids it out, not to the highest bidder and not to the lowest bidder. There's an
mm.
algorithm in there of how it works to make it fair, but then ultimately they reach you, the network gets paid for it, and all is happy.
So does that actually save a company from hiring an intermediary ad agency? I mean, perhaps on the creative side, you want the creative, but in terms of a buying side, would it just replace that, or does it work as one of the levers to pull?
Good news is agencies utilize ad technology as part of their advertising buying now.
Right,
So it used to be where you'd buy direct to publishers, and a lot of what you bought was wasteful. In fact,
right.
David Ogilvy used to say, half my advertising worked, the other half, I just don't know which half. And it was because there's always waste in there. You just don't
Yeah,
know what. But when it comes to advertising technology, it minimized the waste significantly.
right. Yeah, super targeted.
Super.
Um, and what do you think about just, and then I want to get more into on location, but just we talked about a lot of shifts. We talked about going from print only to print and digital to print and digital simultaneously at time. Then we talked about an industry potentially appearing to be over, but revitalizing it and finding the life within. And then we were, talked about Bloomberg and a fragmented business and bringing technology to connect. So, and then of course, now with on location, you're also in the in person aspect of this. So, where do you see? I mean, in the beginning, we talked about humans and being people. So now we've got AI, right? Like that's obviously. So, where does this fit into? hyper local content, working with human beings, all of this that we've discussed.
So the reason why I went to On Location is after I left Bloomberg actually to stop working. I wanted to retire. I actually had a whole vision of what my next stage life was going to be, which included investing in small companies. I had a whole thesis about
Mm.
women-led companies that I felt like could we could fund and to help advance, which I did a lot of that after I left Bloomberg. But I did really miss being part of what I called the game. It was the epicenter of sports and entertainment, and I felt like that I had like one more like shot at this where I really wanted to do it one more time because it was a stage of my life. I just felt like, all right, let's go. So I actually Colin's called a friend of mine who I've known for a long time, who produced television for us when he was the CEO of Dick Clark. His name is Mark Shapiro, and I called him and I just said, "Hey, Mark, I don't know what you're doing." He was the COO, I think it was at the time of Endeavor, and I said, "I don't know what you're doing, and if you need any help, but I would love to do anything you want. I want to make myself available to you." And I said, "Just put me to work, whatever it is. I don't really care." And he said he was looking at buying this ticket and hospitality company called On Location, and I said,
Mm.
"Oh, I'm happy to do work with you on the diligence for that." So I did. And then once we conclude the diligence, he said, "Well, if we buy it, I want you to run it." And I said, 100%. And that's how I got it.
Awesome. Oh,
So,
that's
and
amazing.
the reason why I got excited about Endeavor was and Mark was because Mark is really one of the biggest, most innovative change makers in the world. I've never
Mm.
known anybody like him. He was at a very young age. He was at ESPN. He was one of the people who truly formed what you know as ESPN today. He came
Wow.
up with almost most of the original programming that ESPN did. Came up with Sports Center, 30 on 30. I mean, he really was an innovator. He also transformed the Six Flags organization when he was the CEO of that into what you see now. uh,
Wow.
he got into television with Dick Clark and produced the Golden Globes and the American Music Awards, and then also the People Awards, which is what he did for me. It was amazing, and so he's just so innovative, and he really is one of the most incredible leaders there is. And his vision for and On Location was more than just a ticket and hospitality. What On Location does
Right.
is it partners with world's largest rights holders, and at the time help them take their ticket and have on-site hospitality in order for them to elevate their fan experience. And they did it for
Hmm.
the Super Bowl and the Final Four, and it was a good portfolio, but it was smaller than it was today. And his vision was to be the world's leader in not just ticket and hospitality, but in experiences. And that's what we set out to do. So Endeavor bought the company in 2020, 6 weeks before the pandemic.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's crazy.
And then so I joined on January 2nd, perfect, perfect timing. But when we went into the pandemic, we really used it as the opportunity to pivot what is an experience, which we did.
Hmm.
And what we figured out was an experience was an emotional journey. It started when you decided you wanted to go to something, and it ended when you went home. And there was so many different touch points along the way of anticipation, of excitement, especially for a bucket list or an incredibly world's largest event type of environment. And On Location doesn't do anything in the regular seasons. It's not like you want to get a ticket to the Knicks game, call On Location. That's not
Right.
who we are. But if you want to go to the Super Bowl, that's exactly who we are. If you want to go to the World Cup, that's exactly who we are. If you want to go to the Olympics, that's exactly who we are. And we do that for 760 events a year, all the world's largest events. And so what we've done over the last 6 years is changed what was a ticket hospitality company into a true experience company,
Hmm.
and it's been really helped us redefine an industry. So it was just another example of the kinds of things I've done my whole career, but I'm now
Hmm.
working with a company and a leader in Mark Shapiro who actually does that too. So it's in a really exciting time.
I mean, you're bringing it all together. It is this really nice full circle, I think, because even thinking about the Winter Olympics coming up in Italy in February, right? the Olympics is a multimedia event. You're operating on all cylinders, including obviously those that are fortunate enough to be in person. But it's just every aspect of it feels like it's at the maximum level of engagement of the viewer.
That's right. And what we're doing like in Milan is kind of extraordinary. Now, Olympics is probably it's not necessarily it's hard to say it's the world's largest event because some say the World Cup is the world's largest event, and
Which
everyone's
you're also doing.
perspective. I mean, we're doing them both, but I would say the Olympics is one of the more complicated events because
Okay.
it's 2 weeks, it's hundreds of sessions, 23 to 46 venues depending on winter or summer. It's in multiple markets typically. And when someone goes, their journey or their itinerary, no two are alike. So when they come to market, where they stay, how they get around, what venues are they going to, what do they want to see, where do they want to eat, what do they want to hang out and do, who do they want to meet, all of that. It's so different for every person. So we do that at a major scale. Like we'll do hundreds of thousands of tickets at Milan coming up in February.
Hmm.
We'll do 1 million tickets in LA in 28.
Hmm.
So there's an enormous amount of people that we have to serve and solve for. But that's the exciting thing about the Olympics. And the Olympics is because it's not one sport. I mean, we talk about the World
Right.
Cup being the world's largest event sometimes, but there is a World Cup that takes place in the summer games of the Olympics. It's just one of the sports of a global
Mm.
scale. So, this is where it gets exciting, but very hard. Uh,
Yeah. In what way is it difficult? Like, how does that affect your operations and your strategies?
Because we have, just on the basic level, we serve every one of those venues. So wherever there's a venue, we have to provide hospitality to. But our guests, as where our main focus is that they're all moving in different directions at different times. If you go to the Super Bowl, we'll do a lot of people coming to, tens of thousands of people of our guests come to the Super Bowl, but they all go and out the same day, right? They all go to
Right,
the
right,
Super Bowl and
right,
then they leave the Super Bowl. There's one event.
right.
It's not like they stay
True.
for 3 to 4 days, but they're
Right.
all gearing up with the same arc, with the same
The same
information, the
runway.
same
Yeah.
everything to get to the Super Bowl. And
Right.
then so when the Super Bowl kicks off, a lot of our work is done. And
Right.
but with the Olympics, our work is never done because from the opening ceremony to the closing ceremony, you've got hundreds of events. In the summer games, you have like almost 800 events. Yeah, it's an insane amount of events, and because every match, every sport, every day, the schedule is so complex, and with
Right.
it, we've got again people on the other side of this, right? On the other side of that is someone who's paying for an experience at the Olympics, and their journey to them is the most important one,
This could be like one of the best experiences of their life. They're
and that's
going for it,
where
but they could be going for a special occasion. They could be going for
yeah.
anything.
Yeah. We're like Disney in that sense,
Yeah, I
right?
was thinking that when you were talking about the packages and the tickets, it just got me thinking that's how I felt Disney.
So think about the Disney organization. So if you go to Disney World, you have multiple parks, you have many hotels, and there are so many rides and attractions and meet and greets and restaurants, right? It's a city unto itself. And people come and go on a different itinerary every day. Someone's checking in every day and someone's checking out, and a lot and
Right.
not at a huge scale. How do you and most of them are self-guided, right? So it's not like you have to manage that for them, but there's a complexity to that is uniquely set for Disney. Imagine if you had to guide them throughout that
Right.
individually and as groups. That's what On Location is really set up to do.
So the majority of the employees at your company, what would you say their expertise is? Like what's the biggest department?
So my colleagues at On Location are phenomenal, and some of them have been in the business for a really long time. So, for example, one of my core partners here, who heads up our experiences and hospitality groups, he's one of the core founders of the business. He's been in the business for 30 plus years, and he started with his original partner back when they were in almost high school into college. So it's been a really long time for them.
Wow. That's
Um,
amazing.
so there's people like that. We've got people who are experts in hotels. accommodations, right? They're so interesting to see those people. People who do charter aircraft, regular tickets for air. We've got a couple
Mhm.
of hundred travel agents who work for us on staff. Um,
Cool.
we've got ticketers, people who are sellers, marketers. The breadth of expertise in this organization is extraordinary, and that's where
Absolutely.
I lean into, because I don't pretend to be the expert of any of it. What I do know is I know who the experts are, and I'll pull them in and tap into them all the time, and they all work really well together. And that's comes back to the kind of culture you want to create, the kind of environment you want to create, communication you want to create. It's very hard because a company this size, it's sometimes no matter what you do, the culture takes over itself, especially when they're moving as fast as are moving. But at the same
Hmm.
time, what we get to do is we get to do the our work is what everybody would love to go do in their play.
Right.
And
And you
so
must have
that's
people that are like they love sports and they love culture and they
it.
love adventure and they love it. I
Yeah,
would imagine.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're going to work on the World Cup, you got to love soccer, and you
Yeah.
gotta love global soccer, and where that is that's what's so exciting. I mean, we have people who work on the Super Bowl, and they're like, I can't believe I work at the Super Bowl.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's probably got to be pinch me for, I would think,
Yeah,
almost every, even if you've been doing it for so long. And then especially if you get to go in any capacity, that's
but
pretty cool.
people say it to me all the time. It's like, oh, aren't you bored of this stuff? I'm like, never. There isn't. There's never a stadium or a concert hall or
Right.
anything that I've ever walked into that I'm not like blown away by. Going, I can't believe I'm here. Um, and I've been doing this for so long. I've been going to sporting events and entertainment events, the Oscars and Super Bowl and stuff for decades. And
Yeah.
but to me, every time I go, it's like the first time I've ever been there.
Well, that also speaks to another part of what your company needs to do is make it feel new and exciting every single time.
Yeah,
Right.
we have guests who come to all of them. We have guests like at a UFC event. We've got guests who go to every UFC event we work, every one of them,
Hmm.
and they want the same tickets at every one of them, and we know this is how they spend their time.
Yeah.
WWE, we've got very loyal guests at WWE who go to all of them. Been to so many WrestleManias, they love it.
Wow. My
And
husband would love this part of the segment because he loves UFC and
oh, he
WWE.
does. He's a combat sports guy. So
He's a sports guy, but in general, but he really likes those. Yeah.
those kinds of people, like as soon as you like talking to them, you say, okay, that let's design the right experience for you. Think about it. A UFC event, for example, you could have not only a great seat, but you can have your photo taken in the octagon. You can meet some fighters. You can do the fight walk behind the fighters as they're
Oh, wow.
coming
That's
to the
pretty
main card.
cool.
Things like that. Your WrestleMania, you'll be at again. You'll have your picture taken in the ring. You meeting the legends around the sport. You're getting memorabilia. You're also getting your photo taken down the ramps.
It's
There's
fun.
so many great experiences that people get to do, and we've got great stories of just how people train changes their life. People get like bring family members and have life experience and life moments there. It's fantastic.
And it's funny because it's making me remember too when we first cut the cord. It was like 2013 ish, and we were early adopters of YouTube TV, and we actually because of the sports, that's why we got YouTube TV so we can continue. I didn't personally, frankly, watch the sports, but for the sports. And then I remember we had this like sticker type thing in our apartment, like a satellite sticker. I don't remember what it was called. But then I, as a gift, bought him an Apple TV, which originally was like this little cassette. I don't even know what words to use to describe these things anymore, but you know what it looks like, the Apple TV. The whole purpose of that was for UFC.
Oh, I
It's
get it
just to
now.
watch UFC.
I
And I
get
was
it.
like, this is great. We've got the YouTube TV for the football and whatever else. And we've got the little Apple TV for the UFC. And it's
Yep.
interesting to see how that's changed too, with all the partnerships and exclusive access and rights
Yeah.
being like in the past like 2 or 3 years, rights being such a big topic. and how that affects the user, the consumer experience of seeing these events, not necessarily in person, but those that are watching it on television.
Exactly. Um, uh, that's exactly right. And what I would say is, like, number one is the when it comes to like an event like UFC, watching it is really, really exciting. Being there is amazing. It was amazing, right? It's that bucket list type experience. Now, I do want to say, like, it's not inaccessible. Like, a lot of the times it's really accessible. And when you think about, like, oh, can I afford an on location experience? Like, yes, you can. It comes
Okay.
at every different price point. And there are certainly those extraordinary ones that have obviously come at a very high price point, as you would expect. If you're going to be in the front row, you're going to do different things, that's going to have a different price point. But there's definitely entry level experiences that people can do. So if your husband was really into UFC, what a great gift. What a
I
great
know. So I
holiday
was
gift.
just thinking about it. I'm like, maybe I should look into something like that. Also, music, and you do music events too, right? What are some of the music events?
So we work with Coachella and many of the other music festivals, and we do some
Hmm.
major live concerts as well. For example, at the Super Bowl this year, Friday night and Saturday night leading into the Super Bowl, we're going to be doing a concert in each of those nights. Small venue, 2,400 people. But Friday night we're going to have Sting performed.
Oh, wow.
Saturday night we have the Killers.
Oh, amazing.
So it's a tremendous amount of great music leading into Super Bowl weekend.
That's wonderful. That's perfect. Those are two awesome. That's a great lineup. Is there anything else you're particularly excited about when it comes to FIFA World Cup, Olympics, Rose Bowl, music, golf, everything that you've got going, and as you look at 2026?
I mean, look, we're excited about all the events, right? I would say the Rose Bowl will kick off our year, which will be great, and obviously the bowl games are phenomenal that way. But the Olympics this year is going to be pretty exciting, and this is the time. November to December is the time where, if you haven't already made plans to go to Milan, just know that it is accessible. You should, I highly suggest it. It's a great way to see any city around the world, but definitely an Olympic market. If you've never
Right.
been to Olympics, this is going to be an extraordinary one. The Super Bowl, of course, is great. The NCAA's are great. All the major golf and tennis events and the music events are great. But the World Cup next summer is something that North America will never experience again. 16 cities, 104 matches, teams from all over the world coming into Mexico, Canada, and obviously the U.S. And it's going to take over the entire country landscape, the
Wow.
American landscape. It's what everybody's going to be thinking about and talking about for the 2 months that it'll exist. So I
So it's a big year. 2026 is a big year for On Location with the World Cup.
26 could be the largest year in sports hospitality in history,
Wow. Wow.
but we'll see.
We'll see. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to share that I did not ask you?
No, I think you're good. But if anybody wants to go to anything we do, on locationexp.com is a great way to go see it, or call one of our agents and they'll be happy to help you. But but the other part is just, it all feeds into how you started. It's experiencing and being curious and taking in everything that's around you. All these things matter, and whether it's a live event or whatever you're doing in your life, growing and learning and experiencing is it.
Well said. I'm going to leave it with your beautiful words that of this journey of life that we're on. And you've obviously done a great job transforming business, fulfilling your passions, making an impact with your foundations and everything that you've had to offer. So thank you for taking time to join us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Rachel.